Part 4. Blessed to have each other in this life, Mu Shao, your wife is born again. Author, Hua Hua Liao. Chapter 31. Mu Rongxian looked at Mu Yun. Mu Yun nodded. It's true, Dad, that day we saw Mu Zi sneaking around outside the living room, so we called her, but when she was discovered, she became furious and pushed Xiaoling to the ground. There are reasons and evidence to convict Mu Zi. Mu Zi's long eyelashes trembled slightly, her eyes glanced at the two sisters, she pursed her lips and fell silent. The atmosphere in the living room is subtle. Mu Rongxian saw everything in his eyes. Mu Yun is Mu Ling's older sister, so she will definitely look towards her younger sister. Her words are neither fair nor convincing. Looking at Mu Zi's silence and the helpless expression on his face, Mu Rongxian already had the answer in his heart. He said nothing with a sullen face, a little annoyed. The sisters bullied Mu Zi not once or twice, as long as no one was killed, he didn't bother to care about the children's fights, but they shouldn't pull him. He felt that Mu Ling was fooling him like a fool, and he didn't treat his father with the respect he deserved at all. Mu Rongxian maintained his identity and would not get angry easily. He looked at Mu Zi with a calm expression on his face. Is that so? Mu Zi shook her head lightly, her voice was soft and waxy, with the timidity of a little girl. I went to offer incense to my sister-in-law, and when I went back, I met Xiao Yun and Xiao Ling outside the living room. I wanted to leave, but Mu Ling didn't want to leave. She yelled the ugly ghost to stop. I was really scared, so I didn't stop. As she spoke, she looked up at Mu Rongxian timidly, and said, that's when she fell. Mu Zi is often bullied by these sisters, it is normal to want to avoid them after meeting them. You're talking nonsense. It's you who pushed me. Mu Ling was so angry that she jumped up and wanted to beat Mu Zi. Enough, Mu Rongxian couldn't bear it anymore, and stopped Mu Ling's gaffe. The father's anger made the two sisters shrink back unanimously. Mu Ling was angry and aggrieved, but she didn't dare to make a sound, and shed tears silently next to her sister. Look at what you look like now. Have you read all your daily books for nothing? Mu Rongxian reprimanded Mu Ling in a deep, extremely harsh voice. Father! It's her. Mu Ling wanted to argue, but Mu Yun grabbed her and gave her a warning look. Mu Ling could only keep silent, she bit her lip, and gave Mu Zi a vicious look. Mu Rongxian calmed down slightly, and when Yan said to Mu Zi, Xiao Ling fell very hard this time, she must have misunderstood, thinking that you pushed her. Zi, you don't have to be afraid, even if Mu Ling is me daughter, she did something wrong, and I will never take sides. Although he said it was Mu Ling's fault, he didn't let Mu Ling apologize to her. It seems that even though Mu Rongxian thought that Mu Ling fell by himself, he still got angry with her. Mu Zi thought silently in her heart. She said softly, brother, don't blame Mu Ling, I was also at fault, if she hadn't run away, maybe she wouldn't have fallen. He looked like he was thinking of the Mu sisters. Mu Rongxian was very relieved, and praised her for being well behaved and sensible. Okay, you can go back, so as not to worry your mother. Mu Zi nodded, turned around and left. When Mu Zi left, Mu Ling said to Mu Rongxian with tears in her eyes, Father, you have to trust me, it was really Mu Zi who pushed me. She pulled Mu Yun beside her. Sister, tell Dad quickly, it's all because of Mu Zi. Mu Yun seemed to have never heard of her younger sister's request for help, and stood aside silently. Mu Rongxian looked at Mu Ling with a sullen face, holding back his anger. Mu Zi can push you. She is 1 year younger than you. Mu Ling is 17 years old. She is tall and slender, but she is not slender. Maybe it is because of her big frame. As long as she indulges a little in her diet, she will feel tall and thick, without the beauty of a girl. Compared to the exquisite and beautiful Mu Zi, Mu Ling is too strong, no one believed that Mu Zi could push her. What's more, Mu Zi's wrist was injured. But they didn't know that Mu Zi was no longer Mu Zi. As a prosecutor, she often had to deal with criminals. Capturing hands and fighting skills were basic defensive methods. With one hand, it is more than enough to deal with a girl like Mu Ling. Blessed to have each other in this life, Mu Shao, your wife is born again. Author, HandsomeMaleLead. Chapter 32. Mu Ling was extremely wronged. No, Dad, she pushed me first, and then tripped me with her legs. What is she doing to trip you up for no reason? Could it be that she can beat you both by herself? Mu Rongxian roared angrily. He didn't believe Mu Ling's words, and decided that it was Mu Ling who wanted to chase and beat Mu Zi, but he accidentally fell down. It was rare for Mu Rongxian to lose such a temper. Mu Ling was terrified by the yelling. She pursed her lips and did not dare to make a sound, shedding tears silently. Mu Rongxian said sternly, in the future, if there are such trivial matters, solve them yourself, and don't come to me. What Mu Ling said on the phone was very exaggerated. He thought his daughter was out of shape, and rushed back as soon as the meeting was over, but it turned out that it was a play directed and acted by his daughter. How could he not be angry? Yes, Dad. The sisters lowered their heads and agreed. Go back to the house. The two sisters walked towards the stairs in dismay. Mu Rongxian remembered something and stopped them again. Wait. Mu Ling turned around and carefully looked at her father's expression. You often call Mu Zi the ugly ghost. Mu Rongxian rubbed his brows, a little irritated. What does it look like to be heard by the servants? She is also a person who has been on the genealogy. You should call her little and in terms of seniority, remember. Mu Ling's crying red eyes showed displeasure, but seeing her father's majestic gaze, she still nodded with Mu Yun, remember, Dad. The sisters leave. In the corridor, Mu Ling finally couldn't bear it anymore and grabbed Mu Yun, accusing him, why didn't you speak for me just now? Mu Zi pushed me. How can I help you? Dad doesn't believe our words at all. The more I talk, the more Dad thinks we're quibbling. Mu Yun broke away from Mu Ling's hand, feeling that she was a little confused about the situation. Dad's rage was evidently because he thought they were lying. Of course you don't care. It's not you who was scolded, Mu Ling cried loudly, turned around and ran out. Mu Ling wailed all the way, rushed out of the house, and didn't stop until he reached the lake. She held onto a weeping willow by the lake and kept crying. As a result, Yuanjia road was narrow, and when he raised his eyes, he saw Mu Zi in front of him. Mu Zi raised her eyebrows slightly, also surprised. What are you doing here? Want to see me laugh? Mu Ling wiped away tears, and looked at Mu Zi resentfully. Do you have persecution paranoia? I was just passing by. Mu Zi was speechless. She didn't want to entangle Mu Ling, so she turned and left. But Mu Ling caught up and blocked her way. Why, are you showing your true colors now? Didn't you pretend to be pretty good in front of Dad just now? I didn't pretend. Mu Zi gave her a lazy look, and chuckled softly. What I said is the truth, and you reap the consequences yourself. If you didn't jump over and hit me, how could you break your lips? You, Mu Ling was extremely angry, and raised his hand to hit Mu Zi's face. Snapped. Instead of touching Mu Zi's face, she grabbed her wrist and twisted it at a tricky angle. The pain caused Mu Ling to turn pale instantly. Are you sure you want to continue? Mu Zi's tone was light and airy. There are stones everywhere by the lake. If you fall here, your head will be bleeding. Mu Ling froze, his face pale. She hates Mu Zi. But she was even more afraid of losing her appearance. Seeing that Mu Ling was not moving, Mu Zi let go of her hand. She has no penchant for bullying children. Mu Ling looked at Mu Zi's leaving back, his eyes almost burst into flames. The chest rises and falls violently. Why? It's nothing more than an adopted daughter, and she should abide by the rules when she is under the fence. so why should she show off her might in front of her? How dare you threaten her? Let her get hurt, let her be scolded by her father. Damn it! Damn Muzi! Muzi should die. Mulinki went crazy, seeing Muzi in front of him walking onto the trestle bridge. Muling suddenly rushed over. Use all your strength to push Muzi off the bridge. Purple. The anxious and angry roar of the man sounded not far away. You are listening to Novels at Bless Up channel. Wish you happiness and luck. Please subscribe to receive new novels. How do you feel about this novel? Please like and leave a comment. Blessed to have each other in this life, Shao, your wife is born again. Author, HandsomeMaleLead. Chapter 33. Muling exerted all his strength, but Muzi was defenseless, without even a chance to struggle, and fell into the lake. The cold lake water suddenly poured into his mouth and nose. Muzi was stunned. Do you want to be so unlucky? Was pushed into the water twice? And that Muling, doesn't he have a brain? In broad daylight and the neighborhood is crowded with people, is such a blatant murder really okay? Not only Muzi was dumbfounded, but Muling on the shore was also dumbfounded. After all, she was only 17 years old, and she just wanted to teach her a lesson when she pushed Muzi down in a moment of anger. I don't really want her to die. Now that Muzi was sinking, Muling panicked and shouted in panic, come on, come on, come on. She fell into the water. Come on. A figure flashed in front of him quickly, and before Muling could react, the other party had already jumped into the water. Muling stood there in panic, her hands and feet were cold, and she didn't know what to do. Those who prune the flower branches, those who clean the garden, and the security guards at home all gathered here. What happened? Who fell into the water? It's Miss Muzi. How did Miss Muzi fall into the water? It seems to be because. The servants looked cryptic. All kinds of eyes looked at Muling by the trestle bridge from time to time. Muling felt that those eyes were accusing her. Judge her. As if to say that she is a murderer. That's right, if Muzi really died, she would really become a murderer. Her studies and her future are all ruined. Will she spend the rest of her life in prison? Muling couldn't take it. It's not me, she yelled uncontrollably. She fell by herself. No one spoke. This kind of silence made Muling even more panicked. Her mind was in a mess, and she pointed at a servant in desperation. It's you. It's you who didn't clean up the place, that caused her to trip and fall. It has nothing to do with me, it's you who killed her. The servant is usually willing to stay humble, but he doesn't want to be involved in a life lawsuit, so he immediately screamed, Miss Muling. How can you say that? You were the one who pushed Miss Muzi down just now. Muling's face turned pale. No. I didn't. I didn't. There was a sudden commotion from the crowd, and everyone gathered towards the shore. It's Miss Muzi. Fourth young master rescued her. No one paid any attention to Muling. Two security guards jumped into the water to help Murong Cheng, and Murong Cheng pushed Muzi in his arms to the shore, before turning himself onto the shore. Muling opened a pair of terrified eyes, staring closely at the unconscious Muzi on the ground. It's wonderful to see the sparkling water of the lake on weekdays, but it's only when you sink in that you realize how cold and dark it is. The surrounding water rushed in crazily, carrying the fishy smell of mud from the bottom of the lake, which made Muzi feel uncomfortable. She thumped vigorously in the water, not wanting to repeat the same mistakes, but her body was still sinking. Could it be that the hard-won rebirth will end in drowning again? Muzi was not reconciled. She threw herself even harder. Not to mention that she hasn't taken revenge yet. More importantly, she hasn't taken revenge yet. They tried every means to revive her. They must want to renew their romantic relationship with her, not to let her drown again. The body suddenly lightened and began to float up. Musei was ecstatic in her heart. However, this joy only lasted for a moment. Because she found that her body was still sinking. Yes, it was not her body that floated up, but her soul. Grass. She is dead again. Musei, who has always paid attention to self-cultivation, couldn't help but swear. Blessed to have each other in this life, Shao, your wife is born again. Author, HandsomeMaleLead. Chapter 34. Musei thinks this is unscientific. She just fell into the water, even if she was going to die, it wouldn't be so fast. But resurrection from the dead is something that does not conform to scientific logic, and Musei couldn't help but speculate, could it be that the ghost messenger found out that she, a person who had reached the end of her lifespan, was still alive, so she came secretly to seduce her soul? She really couldn't accept that she died so quickly. Someone jumped into the water to save her. Everything looks so similar. It was like playing back a videotape, except that it was on a yacht that time, but this time it was in Muse Garden. After becoming a ghost, the whole world becomes dark and grey, and everything loses its luster. And those living people become blurred in the vision of ghosts. Even at a very close distance, the facial features and faces are hazy, like the mist of human form. She can only tell the identity of these people by their clothes and voices. The one wearing a designer dress is Mu Ling, the one holding the walkie-talkie to call for help is the security guard, the ones whispering around are the servants. As for the person kneeling on the ground and giving her artificial respiration, it should be Murong Cheng. And many more. Artificial respiration? Artificial respiration. After Musei was rescued ashore, Murong Cheng immediately helped her clean up the mud and debris in her mouth and nasal cavity and gave her first aid. However, Musei's mouth and nose were very clean, and even spit out very little water. A security guard with rescue experience pressed his finger on Musei's neck and found that her carotid pulse stopped. Miss Musei is dead. The crowd was in an uproar, and then everyone went to see Mu Ling together. It was Mu Ling who killed Musei. Everyone thinks so. It's impossible, Mu Ling yelled out of control with a pale face, impossible. It's only been a minute or two, she can't die. Impossible. In fact, Mu Ling was right. Not long after Musei fell into the water, Murong Cheng jumped into the water to save her. The time spent in the water was only 2 minutes. But now that Musei is dead, what Mu Ling said has become sophistry. Someone in the crowd whispered, "Do you want to call the police?" Mu Ling collapsed instantly. "No. Not me, I didn't kill her, I didn't kill anyone." She staggered back, unable to resist the focused gazes of everyone, and fled in a panic. No one was chasing her, but she ran in panic. Stumbled all the way, as if being chased by evil spirits. At this time, Murong Cheng was still doing CPR and artificial respiration for Musei. The security guard looked at him sympathetically. "Fourth young master, Miss Musei has." As if he had never heard of it, Murong Cheng suddenly picked up Musei and walked forward quickly. "Prepare the car. Go to the hospital." Everyone looked at each other. What's the use of going to the hospital? Even the pulse stopped. "Miss Musei, she is clearly dead." Murong Cheng carried Musei into the car, and called Wang Zhan, "I told you to ask Boss Gio for someone. How is it going? I want to see someone now. No matter how far away, bring me come to Qingjiang City." Musei opened her eyes, and saw the white ceiling, the blue medical interlining, and the transparent infusion bag with the label on it. Well, she's in the hospital again. Since she found out that she has become a ghost, she has always wanted to return to her body. She tried countless times and failed countless times. Her body and soul were like two repelling magnets. No matter how hard she tried, she couldn't go back. Occasionally, A few times, there was a wonderful adsorption force, but it couldn't last for too long. As soon as she went in happily, she was inexplicably repelled. This feeling of seeing myself wanting to live, but not being able to survive, is really embarrassing. The last time, the adsorption force seemed to be stronger, and then she lost consciousness. I sat up and found Cheng, who was staring at her beside the hospital bed. He was drenched all over, with wet hair hanging on his forehead. Compared to his usual aloofness, he looked a bit embarrassed. I couldn't help feeling that this man was too handsome. Even if his body was wet and dirty, people would only think that his muscles were strong, his thin lips were sexy, and he was so handsome that he was not at all slovenly. Thinking that this lip just gave myself artificial respiration not long ago. I felt very uncomfortable, turned her face away and said, "Brother, go and change quickly, be careful of catching a cold. Blessed to have each other in this life, Shao, your wife is born again." Author, HandsomeMaleLead. Chapter 35. Cheng stared at her all the time. His eyes made I feel weird, with a sense of urgency. "Brother," I called him again. Cheng's expression softened slightly, and he said, "The doctor asked you to eat some fruit to help you recover after waking up. I bought you a fruit salad in the hospital cafeteria." He propped up the small table on the hospital bed and put a box of fruit salad on it, as if he wanted to watch her eat it with his own eyes. Looking at the fruit salad in front of her, I frowned. Which quack doctor is this nonsense? Although she is not a medical student, she has basic common sense. The drowning people were filled with water. It was the time when they were suffering. Even if they wanted to eat, it should be easy to digest. Who would eat fruit? "Do I have to eat it?" I glanced at him. Cheng didn't speak, but just glanced at the box of fruit salad. The meaning couldn't be clearer. I had no choice but to pick up the small fork, and bitterly picked among the fruits. After a few bites, I couldn't eat any more. "I don't want to eat this, so there are no beef noodles, 3 fresh rice noodles, or wontons." I pushed the fruit box away in disgust. Cheng was relieved to see that she deliberately avoided the dragon fruit in the salad. He was afraid that the person who would come back was not her. "You just drowned, and you still want to eat beef noodles?" Cheng smiled, raised his hand and tapped her on the head lightly. "Beware of vomiting, fast for a few hours before thinking about eating." When I heard this, she immediately stared at him with wide eyes. Super speechless. God, is this man schizophrenic? Who forced me to eat fruit salad just now? Her angry eyes are full of vitality, and she looks extraordinarily agile and cute. Cheng paused for breath. Lost and found again, his heart was throbbing. He couldn't hold back, cupped I's face and kissed it. I. Grass. It happened so suddenly. She was totally off guard. Cheng tasted it lightly, and when he let go, he stroked her head casually, like petting a small animal. I. Her face turned red at a speed visible to the naked eye, and she successfully turned into a red sea crab. Extremely ashamed and indignant, I clenched her fists tightly, ignoring her hand that was still in fusion, and punched Cheng hard in the face. Boom! Cheng's big palm easily wrapped her small fist, held it in front of her chest, and pressed it down bit by bit. Zizi Cheng had a smile in his eyes, and his deep voice seemed to coax him softly, "You have to be good." I glared at him angrily, Cheng, don't go too far." Before he could finish speaking, the door of the ward opened suddenly. Zizi, Bai Wei rushed in with teary eyes. Bai Wei rushed to the bed and hugged Musa tightly. "Zizi, Zizi. Are you okay? How do you feel now? Are you feeling uncomfortable?" I's chest was filled with anger, her clenched fists tightened, loosened, and tightened again. She wanted to say, I am fine, but I was molested by your son. Zizi is fine, there isn't much water in her lungs, it's just a temporary shock because of being frightened, Murong Cheng explained to Bai Wei. He looked calm, as if what happened just now didn't exist. But such a nonchalant appearance is the most infuriating. Mu Zi was about to explode. Murong Cheng looked at her blushing face that she didn't know whether it was shame or anger, and his thin lips curled into a wicked smile, and said, Mom, take care of Zizi first, I have something to go out for. Mu Zi's eyes were breathing fire, if you don't want to be beaten, get out. Rogue. Murong Cheng smiled, turned, and left. Walking out of the ward, Wang Zhan stood outside the door, leaned slightly and said, Master, someone brought it here. You are listening to novels at Bless Up channel. Wish you happiness and luck. Please subscribe to receive new novels. How do you feel about this novel? Please like and leave a comment. Blessed to have each other in this life, Mu Shao, your wife is born again. Author, Hua Liao. Chapter 36. After Murong Cheng changed his clothes, he saw that person in the coffee shop's private seat. The other party was dressed in a suit and leather shoes, about 40 years old, like an ordinary businessman, not at all like Huang Logui's old-fashioned clothes. After seeing Murong Cheng, he took the initiative to hand over his business card with a very humble attitude, obviously Boss Jia had mentioned him in advance. Murong Cheng didn't accept the business card. Wang Zhan reached out to take it, and after Murong Cheng took his seat, he carefully placed it on the coffee table in front of Murong Cheng. Yuan Feng Shui Numerology Company. Murong Cheng frowned and read out the words on the business card. The middle-aged man smiled softly, the foundation of the ancestors, the glory of the descendants, is not worth mentioning in front of you. Murong Cheng asked him, do you know Huang Logui? The other party nodded, Mr. Huang is an old man in our industry. Huang Logui does not have a proper name, because of his ability, people who know him call him Huang Bangxian, but although this man has high morality, he is very evil, and his character is also extremely bad, so he has an extra nickname of Huang Logui. Murong Cheng pondered for a moment, then said to him, I bought a Horcrux from Huang Logui, but the soul body is in another person's body now. The other party was stunned, showing surprise. Horcruxes are hard to find, but you can't find them. Mr. Huang is really powerful, and he can make Horcruxes. Wang Zhan coughed and reminded dissatisfiedly, I didn't call you here to praise him, think of a way to solve the problem. This. The middle-aged man smiled bitterly, Horcruxes are mostly used to nourish and revive the soul. Now that the soul body is dislocated, if you want to reposition it, unless Mr. Huang Lao takes action, I am afraid that no one can do it. Murong Cheng remained silent. Wang Zhan was furious, if we can find him, what are we going to do with you? The man who was finally found, turned out to be so weak. There are some ways to nourish the soul, you can try it. Although there is no way to return the soul body to the Horcrux, it can guarantee that the soul body will be safe for the time being. Murong Cheng was silent for a while, his thin lips parted slightly, and his voice was cold, say it. About an hour later, the middle-aged man left. Wang Zhan couldn't bear it anymore, reached out to pick up the business card left by the other party, and studied it over and over again. The front of the business card is the name, contact information, and company name, and the back is the company's business. Feng Shui at home, Ziwei Dushu, facial features, horoscope marriage, what the hell? Even tarot divination. Wang Zhan became more uncertain the more he looked at it. Master, we won't encounter liars, will we? Although Huang Logui is unreliable, the Taoism is a real mystery, but this, no matter how you look at it, it has nothing to do with Taoism. He talked about the method of nourishing the soul for a long time, but now he doesn't know whether it works or not. Wang Zhan only knows that he has a brilliant tongue and sold 2 inconspicuous mobile phone chains to Murong Cheng for 20,000 yuan. He said that they were opened by Kunlun Hong. Darling, 10,000 yuan a piece of mobile phone chain, I'm ashamed to say it's a discounted price. Wang Zhan's heart aches for Murong Cheng here, and Murong Cheng glanced at him. You found this man? Wang Zhan was shocked, and quickly separated the relationship. Master, he was introduced by Boss Chia. Boss Chia would not introduce a liar to Murong Cheng. No one can bear the consequences of deceiving Murong Cheng. Murong Cheng held the pendant of the mobile phone chain, rubbed it in his palm leisurely, and said in a low voice, whether it's a liar or not, we can't make a conclusion yet, but, he is indeed a businessman. And a good businessman has one thing in common, that is honesty. Murong Cheng hopes that he is a good businessman, so that the business can last long. He lowered his eyes, looked at Kunlun Hong in the palm of his hand, and thought in his heart that starting today, he will start nourishing his soul. Oh no, it's his daughter-in-law. Blessed to have each other in this life, Mu Shao, your wife is born again. Author, Hua Liao. Chapter 37. Mu Zi had another nightmare at night. In fact, since she was reborn, she has had nightmares every night. In the dream was the scene of her death, repeated over and over again. Every time she had a dream, it was like dying again. This taste is really uncomfortable. But there was nothing she could do, not even someone to confide in. After being awakened by the nightmare, Mu Ziqian stared until dawn, and waited for the sky to be bright before closing his eyes tiredly and falling asleep again. Half asleep and half awake, she felt that someone was eating her mouth. It's like squeaking, and it's like biting, soft and wet, an indescribable feeling. Mu Zi was in a daze, unable to tell whether she was still in a dream or not. At first, she felt that the touch was too real, not like a dream, but then, she felt that it couldn't be real. Who dared to kiss her so boldly? Aren't you afraid of waking her up? Until the other party's tongue sticks in. The male's breath was clear and hot, which immediately woke her up. Mu Zi's eyes widened, and she pushed the man on her back with both hands. Struggling. The hospital bed shook loudly. The man had no choice but to let go of her, and reluctantly pecked her lips twice. When Mu Zi saw clearly who the man in front of her was, her face turned pale and she trembled with anger. Murong Cheng. What were you doing just now? Angrily, she grabbed the pillow behind her and smashed it hard. Murong Cheng caught it easily, put the pillow aside, and calmly replied, "Don't you know what I was doing just now? You're disgusting. You're shameless." Mu Zi was really annoyed, and raised her hand to wipe her mouth fiercely. Why such a big reaction? Murong Cheng smiled lightly, hugged Mu Zi calmly, and said, "It's not like I haven't kissed before. How dare he mention it?" Mu Zi was so angry that he wanted to beat him up. But with all her strength, she couldn't break free from Murong Cheng's arms. Why is this man so strong? Mu Zi was puzzled, and at this moment, Murong Cheng smiled and said, "Little thing, where did you learn it? Why didn't I know that my good sister can know these moves?" Mu Zi's body froze immediately. When she was in a hurry, she almost revealed her secrets. Murong Cheng's younger sister didn't know how to punch. With psychological scruples, Mu Zi had no choice but to restrain himself, but, could he just let him take advantage? Hard ones won't work, Mu Zi can only get soft ones. She begged tearfully, like a subdued kitten, "Brother, let me go, you are my brother." Murong Cheng smiled wantonly and wickedly, "Silly sister, what are you afraid of, and there is no blood relationship." Mu Zi was furious. This inhuman beast. Brute. Brothers and sisters who are not related by blood, are they not brothers and sisters? She continued to cry, "You bullied me, I will tell my mother." Muzi tried to use Bai Wei to suppress him. Although Murong Cheng is a bastard, he is very filial. Unexpectedly, today's Murong Cheng didn't like this. Instead he rubbed his forehead affectionately against her, and said with a light smile, "Then tell mom, she always wants me to get married. If the daughter-in-law is you, she must be very happy." Murong Cheng's reaction made Muzi dumbfounded, and then her heart arose. Although Bai Wei dotes on her very much, she is only an adopted daughter after all. If her son makes it clear that he wants to eat her, Muzi really can't be sure of Bai Wei's attitude. Muzi suddenly realized that she was helpless. Murong Cheng, the scoundrel, seemed to realize his conscience, let go of her, and took a tissue from the table to wipe her tears. But the other hand is still not loose or tight around her waist. With rough fingertips, against the soft skin, Muzi couldn't help trembling slightly. Blessed to have each other in this life, Mu Shao, your wife is born again. Author, HandsomeMaleLead. Chapter 38. When Bai Wei came in, what she saw was this intimate scene of brother-sister friendship. She was stunned at the door, very surprised. Muzi was both embarrassed and ashamed. Subconsciously wanted to push Murong Cheng away, but then she thought again, she should let Bai Wei see with her own eyes how shameless her son is. Not even my sister is spared. However, Murong Cheng's shamelessness far exceeded her imagination, and the hand on her waist didn't even have the intention of avoiding it. He calmly wiped a few tears for her, then pinched her nose, and said in a doting tone, "How old are you, and you still cry with your brother, huh?" The expression on Bai Wei's face immediately relaxed, her brows and eyes slightly curved, revealing a gratified smile. Seeing Bai Wei's reaction, Muzi went crazy inside. "Congratulations, Awul. Can't you see that your son is teasing me?" Ah! Bai Wei really didn't see it. She thought that Murong Cheng stepped forward when her daughter fell into the water, which made her dependent on her brother. Siblings live in harmony. Bai Wei has always been happy to see the results. She said with a smile, "Zizi, you have to thank your brother, he rescued you from the water." Muzi twitched the corner of her mouth, smiled stiffly, and said in her heart, "I'm almost taken up by him. How do you want me to thank you? Pay for it?" Muzi's silence was understood by Bai Wei as the shyness of a little girl. Bai Wei came in to pack up some medical receipts, and kindly gave the siblings more opportunities to get along. "The doctor said that Zizi is fine, I'll go downstairs to go through the discharge procedures." She left briskly, and thoughtfully closed the door of the ward. As soon as Bai Wei left, Muzi couldn't bear it any longer. She pulled the hand on her waist and shook it away forcefully. "Murong Cheng, what exactly do you want?" This time, even my brother didn't call out. Murong Cheng chuckled, with a frivolous and warm tone, "I want to like you, Zizi. But I don't want you to like it." Muzi's eyes turned red, feeling very wronged. "I'm your sister, not your woman outside." Her eyes are pure and soft like a clear spring, and the way she bites her lips and sobs is even more pitiful. Even though he knew that she was probably faking it, Murong Cheng couldn't help but soften his heart. He held Muzi's hand, opened her clenched fist little by little, pulled it to his lips, and kissed her slender and pink fingers. "This time, you will like me," Murong Cheng said in a low voice, his tone undeniable. Muzi almost collapsed. She didn't pay attention to the meaning of this time in Murong Cheng's words. She cried, "I don't like you. I don't like my brother. You have so many women outside, why did you come here, provoke me?" "Zizi thinks I have too many women outside." Murong Cheng's lips curled up evilly, deliberately misinterpreting her meaning. "Don't worry, I will only spoil you in the future." Muzi was so enraged by his rascal's behavior that her heart sank continuously. She took a deep breath, her eyes gradually became cold, she looked directly at Murong Cheng and said word by word, "You are my brother, I don't know why you suddenly became interested in me, maybe it's for novelty, maybe it's for excitement, but no matter what, I won't like you, and any person with a normal mind won't like his brother. As long as you have a little bit of courtesy, righteousness, and shame, you should keep a distance from me and treat me as a younger sister. Not like this now, do this, humiliate me like this. Muzi made a long speech with a serious face, but Murong Cheng seemed to be listening to a joke. Why is brother willing to humiliate you? He smiled heartily, lifted Muzi's small chin, bowed his head and kissed her. You are listening to novels at Bless Up channel. Wish you happiness and luck. Please subscribe to receive new novels. How do you feel about this novel? Please like and leave a comment. Blessed to have each other in this life, Shao, your wife is born again. Author, HhandsomeMaleLead. Chapter 39. Muzi turned her head away, his kiss landed on her cheek with a bang. She was so mad. Forcibly resisting, she can't beat Murong Cheng, showing weakness and pleading, this guy is indifferent. Reasonable words to him, it's just playing the piano to the cow. The rascal. Rogue. Poppy. Asshole. Muzi just felt that all the insulting words in the world were not enough to express Murong Cheng's badness. In Murong Cheng's eyes, her swollen look was a different kind of temptation. The puffy little face was as red as the clouds, the moist eyes became brighter because of anger, and even the bitten lower lip looked softer and more tender. Murong Cheng's eyes were dark, and he calmly forbeared. The little girl was obviously very repulsive to him, and he didn't want to push her too hard. Zizi, we have a long time to come. Murong Cheng thought this way in his heart, and rubbed her head lovingly. After all, he didn't do any more excessive actions. Bai Wei quickly completed the discharge procedures. Muzi was in good health and could be discharged after only one night of observation in the hospital. Muzi followed Bai Wei closely, staying close to her left and right, so as to prevent someone from harassing her. Murong Cheng smiled. She's afraid she doesn't know, the more evasive she is, the more interesting it will be for men. When the family was about to leave, Murong Xian rushed over with a look of haste. He walked into the ward, saw Muzi and immediately smiled. Zi, are you leaving the hospital? Without waiting for everyone to talk, Murong Xian said again, I already know what happened yesterday, this kid Mu Ling is getting worse and worse. There should be a limit to joking around, but luckily Zizi is fine. When Bai Wei heard this, her expression was ugly. Although she was usually a bit silly and sweet, the protection in Murong Xuan's words was so obvious, how could she not hear it? How can you say it's a joke? Bai Wei's eyes were flushed, she pushed Zizi into the water. If Rong Cheng hadn't saved her in time, my Zizi would have. Mom, brother, this is a professional habit. You don't have to take it to heart if you want to make big things into small things. Murong Cheng leaned casually by the side of the hospital bed, and said casually, is it a joke or murder? The police will figure it out and let's not worry about it. Murong Xuan's complexion changed, and he looked at Murong Cheng with a heavy tone. Fourth brother, the Mu family is in a critical moment. We are a family, and we should help each other. If something like this happens to Zizi, I will help you. It's also very hard. After all, I was busy with work and neglected to discipline my children. If you want to complain, you can blame me. I will try my best to make up for it. Why bother to go to the police station? The third sibling just passed away not long ago. I don't know how the reporters will organize the Mu family. He said, looking at Bai Wei again, with a more earnest expression. The old man only has these two granddaughters, and Xiaoling has just turned 17, and there is still a long way to go in the future. You watched her grow up, you have the heart to ruin her future life. We are all surnamed Mu. If there is anything, we can sit down and discuss it slowly. Why do we have to make this matter known to everyone? I believe that Zizi is a kind and sensible child. She doesn't want to watch our family fall apart. Mu Zi didn't know how Murongcheng and Bai Wei felt. Anyway, after listening to it, she just wanted to give Murongxian a thumbs up. It's not a bad thing to be the director of the General Office of the Justice Bureau. Move it with emotion and understand it with reason. This eloquence is superb. Mu Zi secretly went to look at Bai Wei, and found that her expression was really moved. Bai Wei is both kind and weak. She is a typical character who will swallow her anger and keep things quiet. If it is a negotiation, she is not Murongxuan's opponent at all. At this time, Murongcheng said, "Ask Zizi, she is the victim, how to solve this matter depends on her opinion." After the words fell, everyone looked at Mu Zi. Blessed to have each other in this life, Mu Shao, your wife is born again. Author, Hua Liao. Chapter 40. Mu Zi. As a 16-year-old girl who has just experienced life and death, how should she behave now? Mu Zi widened her wet black eyes like a deer, as if she was a little panicked. Murongxuan's tone was kind. "Zizi, if you have any requests, just ask, the eldest brother will do everything possible to make up for you." Mu Zi hesitated. "Anything is fine." Murongxian nodded, "As long as big brother can do it." Mu Zi slowly calculated in her heart. In fact, Murongxian was right in saying something. It would be bad for everyone in the Mu family if things got serious. According to the criminal law of Hui Estate, if negligently causes harm to others, criminal responsibility shall be investigated only for serious injury or death. Because it was a negligent crime, the punishment was relatively light, and Mu Ling was only 17 years old. Even if he was sentenced, he would at most go to the juvenile detention center for a few months. Of course, when she came back from the juvenile prison, she would be rejected by prestigious universities, and her father, Murongxuan's career promotion would also be affected. That's why Murongxian was so nervous. But what does this have to do with Mu Zi? Mu Zi's return to this home was never to deal with a little Mu Ling. Rather than letting Mu Ling enter the juvenile detention center, Mu Zi hoped to profit from it. There was silence in the ward, and everyone was watching her, waiting for her to speak the answer. Mu Zi pursed her lips and whispered, "I want to go to school." Murongxuan's expression relaxed, as if a boulder had fallen from his heart. He smiled and said, "Zizi wants to go to school, or go straight to high school." The original Mu Zi dropped out of school before finishing junior high school. Mu Zi said, "I want to go to Gray and go to high school." The smile that had just unfolded on Murongxuan's face froze instantly. Even Bai Wei's expression changed in surprise, and she hurriedly advised, "Zizi, that school is not easy to get into." Bai Wei was definitely not speaking for Murongxian. She was simply worried that her daughter would not be able to adapt to such a prestigious university. You must know that Gray International School is one of the top 3 aristocratic schools in the country. The students there are either rich or expensive, and the annual tuition fees can be regarded as sky-high prices. For ordinary people, it is absolutely out of reach. Even Murongxian would feel heartache every year when he pays for Mu Ling's tuition. Mu Zi is just an adopted daughter, and she dropped out of junior high school, so she wants to study in Gray. Murongxian was annoyed in his heart, feeling that Mu Zi didn't know good from bad. "Gary, that school is not easy to get into." Murongxuan's eyes were a little cold. "Zizi, it's good to pursue self-improvement, but it's not good to be too vain. If you really want to learn, you can go to other schools. It's the same. I just want to go to Gray." Mu Zi's voice was soft and weak, with a weeping sound, as if Murongxian said one more word, and she was about to cry. Murongxian came to mediate, so of course he couldn't make Mu Zi cry. But Murongxian was very reluctant to ask him to pay such a large sum of money for Mu Zi's education. He is pursuing an official career, unlike the second and third children who are businessmen. In addition to the small salary, the income depends entirely on the dividends from the Mu family's shares in his hand. Now the Mu family's company has not turned the corner, and Mu Rongxian doesn't have much money at all. Looking at Mu Ziyi, who was about to cry, Mu Rongxian felt irritable, and suddenly felt that this girl was very unpleasant. It was just a child's slapstick, he was willing to make concessions because of his generosity, but she opened her mouth like a lion, she was simply greedy. Zizi, think about it again. Apart from Gray, there are many schools that are very good. Mu Rongxuan's tone was still gentle, but also distant and indifferent. I still have something to do. When will Zizi think about it? Come tell me again. This is what rejection means. After Mu Rongxian left, Mu Rongcheng took Mu Ziyi's tender little hand, held the palm to play with, and said with a smile, "It's fine if he doesn't want to, brother will send you to Gray."